And good afternoon, everybody. It is Pseudo. It is a Thursday, which means it is all about the Datamine. And it seems like Chris is really excited today.
Full of salad. That's what it is. Full of energy.
Full of energy. I have to say, I'm loving the hair. I'm loving the hair. Hair is definitely looking amazing. And as you notice, we're missing Danny. Danny, unfortunately, is on vacation right now. And your microphone is powerful. I hear people driving.
I'll close the window, but I will go bright red. No, it's absolutely boiling me. Give me a minute. One second.
Or he could go in the middle of the show and close windows. You can hear how good this mic is. Listen.
I'm here. I'm back. I'm sorted.
That's okay. But as you can see, Danny is not with us today because Danny is on a well-deserved vacation after his game Light went live. Purchasable, downloadable, and everything. And, you know, mad props to him because the work's not done.
No. I imagine there's going to be a lot of support now.
Exactly. Well, there's the support, and then there's the iterative process, and then there's adding new features, and you know the milestones that didn't make it to the game get to start being developed and formed. But anyway, so yes, as you can see, I am joined with Chris from 19 Stone Ninjas.
Hello.
How is your game development going this week?
Yeah, I have. I've been quite busy with real life, real work. But yeah, I'm getting on. I'm working on AI at the moment, as we were talking about last week, and just kind of there's a lot of workflow things. In fact, today's conversation is very relevant because I'm working with my artists to get art into the game and kind of working out what kind of concept art we need, etc. as well. So there's a lot of that going on in the background as well.
Whew, that is mad. I know for myself, if you don't have a good workflow, bad things can happen. Really bad things.
We've spent a lot of time on it. A lot of time.
I want to take a moment and give a huge hello to our moderator for today, which is Marshmallows, who is basically here to control the peace with a mighty massive banhammer. But this leaves me to say hello to probably one of the most passionate artists I have ever had the pleasure of talking to. Now, this is Patryk Kowalik. And Patryk Kowalik is the lead artist for Elysian Shadows, which is a game that's just about to hit Kickstarter. And this is where I get to remind you, just remember, speak a little bit louder because you're using that weird mic thing. I want people to hear you.
I could maybe like put it inside my mouth. Maybe that's gonna work better. Like shove it in.
It might not. Let's try not though. But yes, it's okay. Kami has just asked when we're going to be bringing out the MMO Buff game. That's going to be part of the game jam that we're going to be putting together in a couple of months. So that'll be when the MMO Buff prototype hits. We'll see what occurs from it. Poor Spikey. He's all like, you're going to make me game jam. This is not cool.
Oh, it's good. It'd be good. It'd be a nice break, I think, from hardcore, production. So I think it'd be quite cool. And I'll learn something, hopefully, and that's the main reason for me ever doing anything, to be fair.
That is the truth. And game jams are a brilliant place to learn. And you'll be able to bring your expertise of working in a team environment. That'll be great. So, Now we're going to ask our lovely Patryk a couple of questions. The first one I have to ask is, you have a nickname. How do you pronounce it?
Imruniel. I'm so sorry for this nickname. I picked it up when I was 12, I believe, and it just stuck. Imruniel.
Do I want to know what it means?
It means absolutely nothing. That was one of the criteria, actually. I was googling random words, like random nicknames from my tabletop RPGs, and most of them meant something. Like one of the nicknames that I unfortunately was using for quite a bit of time, it meant excrements in French. So that's probably not how I would like myself to be known to the world, but thankfully Imruniel means, to my knowledge and to Google's knowledge, absolutely nothing in any language on the earth.
So you found a Googleplex.
Sorry?
A Googleplex. It's a word that Google.
I know the number, but
No, Googleplex. I believe that's the terminology for it. It's where a
No,
word
something else.
literally, it's something. Dave Gorman. Just look for Dave Gorman.
wasn't Googleplex an actual number though?
Not that I'm aware of. If it is,
No,
I've learned
the
something.
Googleplex is the Google. The Googleplex is the Google headquarters. I know what you mean, though. There's a website you can go to, and you can type in 2 words, and if you get one match on Google, you get a present, which
Yes.
is basically a listing on the website.
Yeah, exactly. It's something. It's all about finding that unique randomness, and yes, I've got questions to also ask you as well, Patryk. And yes, Esfic. Oh, I hope I'm saying your name correctly there. We will be having a game jam. In fact, we're going to be splitting into teams. And I have to take my hat off to Yugi. Just this past weekend, we're involved with a game jam that looked really awesome, especially when you saw the pictures and all it said was, this game is about cheese. So obviously it's awesome. And I was like, now that is a game jam. Cheese. Now I'm hungry. So you had your salad. I haven't eaten yet.
Yeah, I thought last time we spent a little. Well, it wasn't as long last time, but we have spent a while on these, so I thought I'd eat first.
It does happen.
Yeah, I'm actually going to see. Possibly going to see Yuki next Tuesday. Speaking of Yuki, because there's around the corner in Liverpool, they've got some kind of expo on, and Yuki are running it. So if anyone's in the Liverpool area, get yourselves there and check it out.
Okay. Right, Patryk. Let's hit the big questions that are most important.
What's the answer to number 42?
That's a good answer. Not quite the question. But let's start off. If you could, give us a little bit of an intro of who you are, what you do, how you got into game development, and, of course, a little bit about where you're at right now.
All right, so when I was 17 or 18, I believe, in the middle of high school, I quickly noticed that education will not give me any skills whatsoever to earn money at all, even if I'm gonna go to universities. And it was back in the days when people were all about, oh my God, the crisis, economical crisis, you will not have any job whatsoever ever. Yeah. So that was the general conception. But I like to draw and I like to program. So after hours, I started drawing more and more, slowly gaining commissions either through random websites or the Reddit. Actually, Reddit's one of the best aggregators for like very indie jobs. Maybe not small, but like medium size. It's pretty cool actually. And fast forward, like I've been doing this for 3 years, and I've been able to pay my bills. Over the time, Team Elysian Shadows snatched me, and I'm basically herding cats now with 2 other artists that we have.
I like the fact that you're herding cats. And I have to share this with people because I don't think people know just what really occurs behind closed doors in the development studios. But apparently, Chris had never heard of the term herding cats before.
I understand what it means. I've never heard of it. So.
And like I said,
it's better to ask, isn't it, than to be sat there and go for an hour.
That only means that you had a very happy and fulfilled work environment. If you never had to herd cats.
Well, my management experience is I've got some. It's usually small teams, but in terms of this team, everyone manages themselves, so it's quite easy, really. I say that. No, actually, I do quite a lot of management, but it must be. I don't know. I've just never come across that term before.
I have to ask, can I see your T-shirt?
Yeah. Put it on especially for you. Put it on for because it's a new one I got, so I thought I'd put a new one on for you.
It's all about what shirts we wear on this show, sure. Right, okay. So, Patryk, you are now working with Elysian Shadows, and you said you started out with the whole economic crisis being you're never going to get work, you're never going to get anything. And yet, now you work for an indie development company.
Yeah.
And you're from where? Which country are you from? I know, but I'm gonna have to
So
ask.
yeah, so I'm from Poland, but when I started, I was actually living in Cyprus. See the whole emigration thingy, and I moved back to Poland because I'm working through internet, so I can live literally wherever. So I moved to Poland because living costs and living expenses are so much cheaper here that I could essentially work only for 2 weeks in a month. So even if like in the most crisis stadium, I would always live on the solid level.
I'm just sitting here thinking maybe I should tell Mizpa to move me to Poland. Then I can only work 2 weeks out of a month and be content.
I was thinking about moving to Taiwan actually, because I never been in Far East, and apparently they have pretty good internet connections in major cities, and living there is cheap.
Go for it.
Well, there you go. We now know where Patryk's heading next. When you've got an internet connection, the team really can be anywhere.
Actually, I'm heading next to America because Elysian Shadow, Elysian Shadow starting the Kickstarter, and there's like this now giant push for finishing up everything and making it as pristine as possible for this final presentation. And then also during the Kickstarter development, we'll need to make a lot of updates and do a lot of interactions. So it will be most beneficial to have me on the side with the rest of the team. So now I'm actually working through the visa acquisition. Headache. It's so
not
horrible.
Easy.
Yeah,
I was looking
but
at moving to America myself. And, the visa.
Yeah, but it's only for like 3 months top, so it's not permanent. So hopefully it won't be that hard. But still, like it scares the crap out of me. Like the TSA agents and immigration officers, I don't want to be near these people. And they're gonna they're gonna pat me up and like feel me and
It's actually not that bad. It's not that bad. You guys make it sound horrible. Although, to be fair, I haven't been back to the States in a couple of years. So, for all I know, it could have changed. Maybe. Okay. So, we're now going to move into some other questions for us. I am actually really curious about this particular one because, you are someone who says you like to program, but you also like to do art.
Yep.
So, if you could have any technology or item in a game anywhere, what would it be and why?
In a game or like in real?
Like if you could have anything from a game and bring it into the real life world, what one item would you take from any game out there and put it in your personal inventory here in real life and actually use it?
I don't remember any specific game, though the concept of like brain-computer interface is very entertaining. Like just having the chip in your head so you can directly connect to PC and
That's
to
what
internet.
my game explores, strangely.
Like I want it. Like I'm actually now surrounding myself slowly with more and more PC screens. Like I will have to buy even bigger desk to fit another 2 screens, and then hopefully maybe 2 more on the top, because like the more space the better. If I could just immerse myself within the environment of my PC and have like 360 sphere around me to display on the content and work on it. And even better, like not have to work with my cumbersome hands to paint and just put out of my mind into the canvas. That would be awesome. Like I could be the best 3D modeler ever, even though I'm kind of shitty right now.
See I totally agree with that. That's a great one. That I like the idea of plugging yourself in, jacking into the virtual world. Yeah. So that's what we're exploring in our game, in our story. With everyone's got an implant, and they've got their own little social network. And when you hack in the game, you enter cyberspace, and it's in your head. You're hacking from your head. You're not hacking on a computer, if you know what I mean. So it's quite an interesting concept, obviously, to me. Have
you ever played Shadowrunner?
Yes, and Shadowrun, I take a lot of influence from it because, again, they jack in. The latest one is pretty good, but the SNES one, the original SNES Shadowrun, if you like point and click adventures or anything of that ilk, it's not a point and click. It's more of an action. Get on it because it's a brilliant story and it's a cool like cyberpunk world. And if you're into that kind of thing, just give it. Even the old games, give them a go.
Oh gosh, yes. And I have to throw out there, they have another, or they have a DLC for Shadowrun, the new one, and it's apparently even better than the original that they brought out. So I'm afraid to pick it up. I'm afraid to, because I know if I pick it up, I won't put it down.
You have to, though. That's the problem. It's a linear game. Although there is a lot to do in it, it's linear, so you will eventually finish it. Unless you restart it again, like some people do.
No, see, this is where I get to turn to Patryk, because in Shadowrun, one of the things that you can do is you can use the art assets that are already created in-game to create your own storylines, your own everything. And that is like, what? It's great.
It brings me back to the days of Warcraft 3 editor and also Neverwinter Nights 2, I believe. It also had very powerful editor. Like, those were the games when you could just create. You would essentially be. It was like tabletop version. It was the PC version of a tabletop when you could be a GM and literally craft a story for your party and be awesome. And nowadays it's like either so much harder or straight out impossible. There are the few exceptions like Shadowrunner, which is amazing.
Well, I wouldn't say it's impossible. There's a lot. I mean, Steam Workshop does quite a lot of that. That they have given developers. I haven't looked at it. I don't know what the API is like. I don't know how it works or anything. But it looks like a lot of games are kind of trying to go down that route, or at least a lot of those types of games. The ones that invest a lot into the world and the lore and the rather than just a single IP or a single story that's based in real life or something. If it's a fantasy realm, they tend to put a little bit more effort into the mod scene, because again, we all know there's a big mod scene when it comes to a game that grasps gamers, at least anyway.
Well, gosh, yeah. I mean, in the end, the modders are going to keep a game going without the developers having to spend that much time trying to develop new content. They can seriously focus. They can focus.
DLC money.
The money. Oh, yeah. See, that's one of the things we stress here on the show. If you're an independent developer, which is, I mean, the Datamine is designed to be group therapy for the independent developer. But, when it comes to developing games, if you're an independent developer, you have to still pay the light bill. You still have to pay the phone bill. And independent development does not guarantee you Angry Bird status, does not guarantee you Flappy Bird popularity. It does not guarantee you application money,
We all know that a lot of other issues come with that power or that popularity. It's not that. Look at what happened to Flappy Bird, for example. It's not an easy thing to deal with. Not everyone can deal with that fame, if that makes sense. If you did get there. And getting there is a huge process. It's a long, drawn-out process.
Well, what I mentioned...
Just lucky.
Sorry.
Okay.
When I mentioned money, I was thinking more about the AAA developers. I recently read the news about the new Sims cutting pools and toddlers from the game. So that made me cringe a bit, because as an indie, I'm all for openness and releasing the assets or storylines or the worlds or anything to make it easier for content creators to create either mods or additional content from your game, because that's free advertising, and it always will go back to even if someone would take actually let me backtrack a bit. In my free time, I'm creating worlds. I'm just world builder. I'm creating worlds for RPG games. Here is one example behind me, actually.
I was about to say, is that actually from Elysian Shadows, or is that just something that you made a campaign?
No, that's area project. That's only a fraction of it. Right now, it's 120 pages of text on my PC for just my own world that I will probably release just like that for people to use. When I'm gonna make the game, though, which will probably happen someday, because first Elysian Shadows. Back to the topic, though. I want to release it for free when I'm gonna make the game, because it always, whoever gonna use this word, it always will backtrack to my game. So if you're gonna make RPG show, like a tabletop. Some people are making this on YouTube, which is pretty interesting to watch. If you're gonna make a RPG world in this setting, it will backtrack to my game. If you're gonna make a YouTube video of my game, it will backtrack to my game. If you're gonna make a game from my world, it will backtrack to the world and my game. It's always free advertising, and that's why it's very important for indies to be as open as possible. Meanwhile, AAA studios, they have all of the advertisement monies, and they have all the fan bases. Now, the SimCity 4 fan base is huge, so they can allow to cut them, so that they can just cut features from the game and sell them as DLCs, $5 for swing pools, because you're gonna pay for this.
Yeah, it's a bit of a horrible state of affairs, in my opinion, but it's commercialism, isn't it? And that's what runs the world, unfortunately, commercialism and
people gonna pay for
not
it.
Commercialism. Sorry,
capitalism. Yes, people gonna pay
keep
for
doing
it.
this.
Yeah, well, see, this is the thing. We start to get a little bit philosophical here in our show, which is absolutely hysterical. But now what we're going to do is we're actually going to dig into the real topics of why you're here, although we've spent quite a bit of time getting to know each other. Okay, so we know that when it comes to playing a game, it is not just about having a mathematical table. Logarithms comes to mind for some of the games that I've had to play in the past, or die or what have you. It's also about the physical aspect, what makes a game beautiful, or what makes a game fit a genre, what makes a game feel unique. And in the end, it's not just about, say, the gameplay of how your character moves across the screen, it's what your character looks like. I mean, I know somebody who will tell you point blank, she refuses to play a character that she personally does not find pretty.
What does she define as pretty?
I have no idea, although she seems very content with the characters that she is playing currently. So she's found games that matter to her on that level. But it doesn't have to be realistic. It doesn't have to be, the quote-unquote svelte model type thing. It just has to be pleasing to the eye. So in my opinion, based on what I've seen, probably soft colors, soft lines, nothing harsh or jagged, nothing that would make it scream quote unquote masculine versus feminine.
I was just going to say that appeals to me though, that jagged, that harsh lines, and that's the kind of style that we go for in our designs, because again I push that, so it's interesting.
That's the thing. I'm really going to be really curious to see what you do with the characters, because what you have right now with the models, you have the interactions of the cameras. You're just now starting to dig into the art.
Mm-hmm.
So here's where we get to turn to Patryk. Now, Patryk, you do art. So, it's kind of. Yes, as you look at what's behind you, I sort of do art, just a little bit. So
Pays my bills.
My question for you involves someone comes up to you and says, I am looking for an artist for my game. Now, I happen to be aware of many artists who are incredibly interested in getting into game design, but they have no idea how. So let's start with how you got into it and what it is the thought process goes from. I mean, just someone coming to you saying, build me things, draw me stuff, doesn't work.
No.
Okay, so it's a two-part question. First one, how to get into making assets for a game, and it's actually very easy. Look how games look like. So like make a basic research. It's like 4 hours research is plenty. The major, like the way I divide, at least 2D, because let's make first this distinction. I'm 2D artist. I'm trying to get myself into 3D, but I'm still not so good, so I wouldn't be too comfortable talking about 3D. So let's stick to strictly 2D games. And they're like basically 3 styles of 3D art, which is pixel art, which everybody loves and everybody hates, and some people even vomit when they see it because it's been used so many times. And there is reason for that. There is a vector style, which can be very different from games that look just like, normal cartoons, or games that look like anime almost, to games that are more abstract, like Thomas Was Alone, for example. And because it's those were vector shapes. There were squares. Most of the things were squares, but there could be, I don't know how the guy did that. He probably just generated it with the code, or maybe not. But it's an example of a vector art. And then there is also very nice HD hand painted style, which is something that you can remember from Rayman Origins, maybe. It was a very pretty game.
I think like Final Fantasy VII
like
did it. Yeah.
Like painted. Like everything's painted by hand. And it's gorgeous, but my god, it takes time. So
pre-rendered stuff. That's what
Yeah.
they refer to it as, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, it is
Yeah,
called
so-
pre-rendered.
so-
There's actually a game called Dex that's an independent game that every single scene that you see, every character that you see is hand-painted.
yes.
Which is why when I was like, so are you looking at letting people mod? And they're like, no. And I'm like, okay. But it makes sense. But yes, go ahead. As you're
I
saying.
actually worked on one of the, and the major choice between, if you want to make a game, the first when someone comes up to me and he tells me, hey, I need an artist for a game, my first question is, what's your budget? Because that will define the art style. If you have lots of money to toss on it, you can do anything. But if you have very small budget, then it's better to stick to pixel art because it's the fastest to make and therefore the cheapest. Good example.
Pixel
Making
art
a character.
being
Yeah.
the stuff just literally pixel by pixel, you're making subtle changes to things, kind of like you do in like Minecraft skinning.
Yeah, like Elysian Shadows.
Like Elysian.
Minecraft is actually a voxel game, but like a Fez is also pixel art game. Basically, just Google pixel art, and you're gonna see lots of examples.
There's lots of different styles of pixel art as well, though. It's not just a single
Obviously.
style. There's shaded
Obviously.
stuff.
Yes. There are like those three major groups that at least I divide them because there are different approaches to how to make them, and then there are different styles within them. Obviously, like there are different vector styles, as I mentioned, different pixel art. You can go 8-bit and make like 16 by 16 tiles, or you can go bonanzas and have like 128 or even 256 characters, which is huge. And then like pixel by pixel made, and then pixel by pixel animated, and that's gonna take a lot more time. But hand painted, I actually made one of the games, a very small one, quite early. It took 8 hours to make one animation for a character, while in pixel art it takes 2.
Well, I can come from the kind of the other side of things. We've got concept art, which is pre-rendered drawings, as we were just discussing, and then that moves into the 3D realm. So from the concept art, we get orthographics, sometimes we get 2D orthographics, etc. Or we'll get detailed versions of them, and then we take that, or the 3D modelers rather take that, and then do modeling from it. Come back with lots and lots of questions that the concept artist didn't think about, or I didn't think about at the time, and then we kind of bounce back and forth until we get something that looks right. So there's quite a lot of different stages in the stuff that we do. It's by the sounds of it, you basically, when you talk about concept art, you're talking about maybe if it's pixel art, for example, you'd put a pixel drawing together, and then you'd modify that for the final production version.
Oh, that's entirely different kind of worms, because that entirely depends on your team structure and on your production setting of like the use of concept art within the pipeline. But I think like we should probably leave it for later because we're getting really far from the initial question.
Okay.
But again, like how to start making assets for video games. Just as I said, first research those 3 major groups and look up for tutorials. If you can't find anything, hit me up on Twitter, because I literally have a giant list compiled already, because a lot of people were asking me this sort of questions. And then basically you go on Reddit or any other message board of your choice when you think Pixel Joint is a good place for pixel artists. Conceptart.org is a good aggregator for concept artists, but they also there are postings for just general game artists sometimes there. And also have a portfolio, probably useful to show your work.
100%.
So
I don't even consider people without a portfolio these days.
Yeah.
If they haven't got a reel or a few photos, what's the point?
It's not possible. Like, you really need portfolio. Your portfolio as an artist is your CV. People don't give a crap about your age, your ethnicity, your gender, anything. People only care about your portfolio. I've worked with people that had no idea what's my name, and they paid me.
Yeah, that's exactly my point. And when people do talk about, all these other things that what stopped me got the job, it's because your work isn't good enough, or your work isn't, or your attitude isn't good enough, because attitude is a very big thing as well. But again, I'm taking it a little bit further off there.
Yeah, so you can compile yourself basic portfolio as practice, because obviously the jump from making illustrations or from making design or anything else to game art, you will have to look at those tutorials and make a couple of them, and make a couple of you will naturally make yourself a little bit portfolio. Then if you're really not sure, there are a lot of people that would love to have someone work for free. So if you cannot get any paid job, you can always team up with someone, and that's a good way to build portfolio, to actually get experience of working on actual video games with actual programmer. And then another thing what you can do, and that's what I did in my early days, I would send an email with my portfolio and say, hey, I know what you're looking for. I know that my portfolio doesn't exactly match it, because let's say guy would be looking for pixel art, and at the time I had no pixel art whatsoever. But I would say, hey, give me a small task, like an art test. And if I can make it, if you like it, why not? And then obviously it helped that I lived in Poland and I could work for $15 per hour. Where majority, like now normal stake is like the lower end nowadays is $20 for good artists. $20 per hour. And then obviously some people prefer to have quota per asset or milestones, but it goes down that you give the artist list of assets, the artist estimates how much it's gonna take, multiplies it by his hourly rate, because hey, we gotta pay our rent, and then he's gonna give you the estimate. So I like to think in matters of like dollars per hour. I think that's it. Like I don't have anything to end.
Well, see,
I was going somewhere and then I lost it.
Well, see, this is where I now tackle the concept of, you are the artist, you've been hired, so to speak. Where do you get your inspiration for your concept art? Does the developer, the coder, need to sit back and wait for inspiration to hit you because you're just this light, airy, artistic self, and you have to wait until the mood strikes you in order to produce the artwork that is required for a game? How does it work? What goes on in your brain?
It causes me physical pain. That's not how it works at all. But seriously, like, if you have this sort of approach, please don't. Like, there are deadlines. You have to make it on the time. You cannot wait for inspiration. And, like, even if you have to, blank page, stare at it for 4 hours and work 16 hours per day until you're gonna get something. But obviously, there are, like, each case differs because there are different developers and they have different expectations. Some people would come up to me and they say, I have precise idea of the world and the design, and I will talk about it, you just have to draw it. And I was, all right, send me as much as you can. Some people would say, I have no idea whatsoever, but I have this cool mechanic for a game, make story to it, and assets, and everything. And that's obviously going to cost slightly more because I have to make concept art. It has to be... Okay, back, because the place of concept art is going to be very important here. So if the guy has very concrete idea of what he wants, then we can either risk it and cut some hours and go straight into making art assets if he's confident in my abilities and I'm confident in mine, or if he's still not sure, he can ask me to make a couple of concept sketches, and that's where concept art comes into. Because making concept art will take a little bit more time, but it might save us because making final assets takes way more. So that's essentially the place of concept art. When someone sends me what they need, I illustrate the ideas, give them a couple of choices, let's say 3 or 4, and they pick one with modifications, like let's say head of this guy on body of this guy with this big ass cannon of this guy. That's what I like. So
That's exactly what we do. Again, I tend to give a bit of a brief. I give as much information and as many design ideas as I've come up with, because I'm not an artist. I don't have the brain for drawing. I don't know why. It just doesn't work with me. But
you're a coder.
Yeah, I'm a coder and I'm a manager and stuff. But yeah, so basically I give them like a page of text and loads of reference photos and things like that, and then they go off, draw exactly what you said there, draw a lot of thumbnails depending on what the art is, if it's environment, character, prop, art, things like that, and then they come back with ideas. We just bounce them back and forth until we get to a final piece, and then we start getting more detail in that final piece and go from there, But we generally use them. You did briefly talk about going straight into the art. I think it's in our particular situation, going straight into the production art, I think, is a little bit more. It's a little bit more difficult because we've got such a big world and we've got such an environment to create and a feeling to create, that we need the concept art in order to get an overview of all the little props and all of the things that we can't do concept art for because we've got budget constraints,
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely.
Sorry.
Go ahead. Who wants to go? Go on, Patryk.
So yes, what I want to say is that typically the projects that are going straight into the art, there are very small ones, like budget of like even $500, which very small pixel art. One guy, often student, with just his savings, he's just like, dude, I have only 500. Can I hazard? And if you have very small game, it can sort of work. More often 800, but still, it's like a lot of people don't realize it. But some people think like, oh, $800, that's a lot. That's not really.
It's not. It's not.
No.
Like 3 levels in like very pixel. Yes.
I did. I went on concept art and posted an advert for a concept artist because I wanted a revenue share for everybody, but I knew that we needed concept art before anybody would be interested. So I specifically went out and looked for someone to pay to do the art. And I went through no less than 150 people, all with different ideas, all with completely different rates. And I had people from the £150 an hour to £5 an hour. And I got somewhere in between, and I found someone who had the right attitude, had the right style, and could basically do all the concept art we wanted, not just like you get a lot of people who come and say, I can only do environment art, I can only do character art, or they're only interested in that, which is fine, but for an indie studio, it's no good at all, because we need I can't afford to have 5 different people doing 5 different types of art, so generalists essentially are the best thing for indies, I think, personally.
Yeah, that's why I kind of... Sorry.
I was just going to jump in on that because of something that you and I had discussed. You have stated that you are an artist, and yeah, you do your concept art, and you can do the pixel art, you can do vector art, you can do all those things, but you also understand the need to be able to speak the language that the programmers speak or the developers speak. So you've actually dug into that as well. So when he says generalists are kind of important, I'd almost have to say, yeah.
I mean, generalists are good in almost any situation, but I think in indie dev, when it's such a small team and when it's such a constrained budget and you've got so many constraints around what you can and can't do, someone who doesn't just want to come to work or do work and just concentrate on the one thing, comes in and goes, right, here's your work list for today, get on with it. That's fine, that a lot of people, it's good with that. Go and work for a AAA if you want that, Don't work for an indie, because indies need your investment. They need people to be a part of the product, not just, they need to be invested in the final result rather than just, right, I'm just doing this one bit of art and then
a cog in a wheel, or a cog in a machine, so to speak.
You just touched on a very interesting subject of being like very broad generalist, but Chris was talking about more of a generalist in terms of art assets, because you will find artists that will say, I'm doing only 2D backgrounds, I do not do animation, I will not do UI, I will do anything else. And it's not feasible for indies. If someone comes up to me, like by definition, but what I was doing animations from the very start. I was doing backgrounds, I was doing menus, I was doing often menu design, UI design, I was doing promo art, like for banners and stuff like that. Like I was doing everything, because that's what indie needs. Like the guy cannot afford to have multiple artists and not even spend money, because if you're gonna pay per asset or per hour, spend the time of
I was going to say
finding adequate
the
people.
time is more important than anything. To me, if I waste an hour explaining to a second artist how we work or something like that, how we all work together, it's not. Yeah, it's not. I wouldn't say it's a waste. It's a horrible thing to say that. It's just that time is very precious, and even though we personally haven't got any time constraints with the project, we still want to get it out earlier. We still want to get it done earlier rather than in 10 years' time. It's,
Yeah. But then also generalists in a little bit broader sense, and those people are very rare. What I found, to my surprise, like there are artists that they have no idea how their art assets will be used in the games, and that's just shocking. It's maybe not as useful in 2D art, because and that's like my heart bleeds, because there are so many interesting things that you could do, and we're doing with Elysian Shadows, thankfully, that 3D art does but 2D doesn't, like dynamic lighting, bump mapping, normal maps. Like those are tricks, hard mapping, those are things that you generally use in 3D art, but you can also use in 2D art, and it gives you such a great examples. But people don't do that, because the 2D artists that are coming in, they often come from like straight out painting. Like the other artist that works on Elysian Shadows, like the guy's a beast. Like he's so much better than me. He's like from academy, like he's from Tsar's Academy of Arts in Russia, something like that. Like really prestigious and really freaking awesome, and he's great. But like he has no idea how it works like in the game. Like he had to have like very thorough explanation. And it helps if you know it, because you can go to your, like, especially if you have like two people only on the team, like a programmer and an artist, you can bounce ideas so much, like, because there are certain things that I came up for Elysian Shadows that the guys had like no idea that they would be useful, or that they could even do it. Like obviously they could do it because like they're really beastly programmers, but the thought didn't occur. But as I was doing the art, I was thinking, that would be really, really awesome to have. And we started talking, and I started already because I actually work also as a programmer. And because, I know programming to some extent, I could actually start theorizing how it would be approached and how it could be done, and I could sort of explain them better what I actually need.
Yeah, I mean, it's good to have.
Important.
It's good to have roles in your team. I mean, for example, I am the programmer. Other people might understand a bit of the programming, and I do try and explain it. But if you get too much of a crossover, even though the generalist thing is a great idea for understanding and being able to do your job properly, I still think it's very valuable having people to do individual things, especially if you've got anything that's it's even slightly more complicated than a platformer, like a 2D walk along a route and collect things.
Oh yeah, definitely. It's like a minor thing.
Yeah, when you were talking about artists who don't understand the full flow, there's also, when you come to things like 3D artists, I've run into, I know we're not talking 3D specifically, but it relates to this. I've run into a lot of 3D artists that just want to model, and they don't know how to texture, they don't know how to use shaders, they don't know how to use bump map, they don't know what bump mapping, and I mean, I didn't know what any of this stuff was before I got into it, because I'm a programmer, but now I'm having to learn it. I'm enjoying learning it, I'll be honest with you, but I don't know how to do it. I still go, right, I understand that we want a bump map or a normal map here, or a specular or something like that. Can you go off and do this? Can you make a sub-mesh here and make it emissive or something like that? Something that's, it's nice to be able to talk the artist's language, and obviously it's nice if they can talk my language as well, even if you speak the same language, if that makes, it's still...
There's jargon, there's terms,
yeah.
What you do with a 3D model and how you texture it is going to be different than, say, a 2D model. And being able to express, when I do this occurs, I'm getting tearing or some kind of weird things going on. That's kind of important.
Yeah.
So, yes.
Like if you would give a free rein to 3D artists, they would just make like 5 million polygons models, and then 5,000 of them on the scene, and then programmer comes along and then even NSA PCs will not run it. Even the computers that are working with Super Collider, they will not be able to render even 1 frame per minute. So it's important to know the constraints of the technology that you're working with.
Yeah. Again, a lot of artists tend to make in 3D stuff. Again, make a high poly version and break that down into lower poly versions, and use the high poly as a bump map or as for doing the texture and for baking that. And again, this is all stuff that I've learned over the years, and I've got to a point now where I actually know kind of what the difference is between the basics. There's still a lot of more advanced stuff that I'm still getting into, but I mean, even though I take the models, put them in the game, and do things with them, I still don't need to know how to model, if that makes sense, even though I can do a bit of it. But yeah, it is one of those, as long as it's a communication and workflow thing more than anything in a team environment.
Yeah.
Between any two people, not just artists.
No, this is incredibly true. Yes.
But, to just maybe finalize the discussion, getting into art, really easy. Just a couple of hours of research, and then little bit of guts to just go and talk to people. You'd be surprised, there is a lot of demand for artists.
Mm.
Oh yes, I know for a fact that 19 Stone Ninja has up on their Twitter feed that they are looking for a graphic artist right now. Is it a 3D modeler you're looking for, or a 3D texture, or someone who does all the things?
I'm actually looking for, it's probably a better way to put it is a generalist, but an environment artist. And an environment artist, I have learned the hard way what an environment artist is, because in a 3D sense, you would think that an environment artist would create a room, and then or a scene or something like that. But I've also got modelers doing props. So I've got a prop modeler who's doing the props. I've got an environment artist who's taking my basic meshes. I've got blocked out meshes essentially for the entire game, and they're making it pretty. But you could just make the walls look pretty. But I also need someone to take all the props and put them in the environment and light it, and make sure all the shaders and materials are correct, and obviously I need to be there to make sure that the interaction in the environment is right, and make sure that things aren't too tall and too small. Doors. At the moment, for example, we've got 3-meter tall doors, and it looks fine in the first-person controller, but as soon as you look at it in third person, the doors look humongous in comparison to, other. It's a little thing, but it's one of those things that as an artist you maybe wouldn't notice until later on, until you get the character in there. We've had problems with the size of the character, the scale of the character that we've been putting in the game, and how we're going to apply it to the character controller, and there's some specific constraints around that. There's so much talking back and forth with artists. It's every day.
It's so much harder to be a 3D generalist than to be 2D generalist, because there is just so much things to know. The animation is that much harder than 2D. The modeling, obviously, as you said, it takes lots of experience. But even as you said, being an environment artist and setting up a scene, some people think that it's just throwing up a props in there and make a room and it's all good. No. Lighting is huge, making sure that everything is color balanced on diffuse map, and then making sure that the lighting works correctly with everything, and it's all nicely illuminated. It's the best example will be just Watch Dogs. You saw people maybe recently turn out a lot of all those fancy rendering settings in Watch Dogs, and the game looks so much better. And the people that actually set up those settings in the scene and in the game, so when the rain runs, what's the lighting settings, stuff like that, those are the environmental artists. And they add this little bit sprinkle of magic to the scene that just makes that much better. And
it's the kind of stuff of magic to me, as you said. I know, again, the technical stuff around it, but I've been working on a single room for months and months, getting the workflow right. It's more the fact that we've got so much to do that we need to make sure the first room is right before we start moving on to everything else, and then we can hopefully start ploughing things into it. But we've been spent so much time just looking at, and I haven't even started on the lighting yet. I've just been looking at getting the shaders right, getting the materials, making sure the meshes are correct and there's no holes in them. making sure that the sub-materials are set up correctly, and we can apply the right effects to the right places, make sure the sizes are right.
Another game that's just like a really nice example of great environment design is Trine 2. If some of you know, like the Trine is.
I've got that in the Steam sale.
It's such a gorgeous and beautiful game. But if you would see the 3D models, and if you're gonna, in a couple of scenes, you can actually see the characters very up close. The models are horrible, and like they're very low poly, and everything is very low poly. If you would strip all of the effects, all of the color, and everything from the game, it would look really bad. But because of all the extra things, like all the extra animations, all the extra lighting effects and color effects and particle effects and placing of the items, it all makes it look that much better.
It does look very nice. Looks beautiful, in fact, doesn't it?
It looks great in game.
Now see, here's where I get to pipe in now. Okay, so here's the deal here. We are getting close to the end of our show now. I'm going to let people know a small secret. Patryk is not going to be here for a one-time deal. We will have him back again in the future to discuss some of the other big topics. Like, we have slightly but not completely touched on some of the topics we wanted to bring up in this particular episode for artists and for game designers to know. I think, however, what I want to do is when I first started talking to you, Patryk, you made a mention of something to me that made my head go, wow, that is actually really smart, but it's common sense. But everyone should know it in case it isn't common sense and I'm just being really silly. And you were talking to me about how you spend your free time reading Wikipedia for inspiration. And
I already read Wikipedia.
You know what, when I need inspiration, I tend to do that as well. I'll tend to look at things like astronomy and things that aren't really related to science and astronomy.
It's not only Wikipedia, it's everything. Do you have anything else to Josie to say? Because I sort of again typed in, sorry. Do you have anything else to say?
No, go on.
Or can I just go on? Can I just go on? Because if I'm gonna fly out now, it's just gonna take me like 10 minutes. Definitely not only Wikipedia. Like, it's so important, especially for concept artists. If you want to make designs, know stuff. Know everything there is to know. Read about everything. Get yourself acquainted with history of humanity, how it started, our culture, different cultures, different beliefs, the different quips that we had, different religions, the Shinto religion, the Buddhism beliefs, the medieval alchemists, European alchemists. That's a thing. Not like some people didn't knew that there were actual alchemists in Europe.
Yes.
Kabbalah mages, as I said, like the beliefs of the African tribes and all the shamanism, Hawaiian beliefs of voodoo and stuff like that. That's very important. So much stuff to know, like everything that you know, because you cannot imagine something that you haven't experienced. Like everything that I came up with, everything that anyone ever came up with is a remix of a remix of a remix of a remix. Yeah. Everything can be traced down back to something in our real world. Even the most bizarre and abhorrent idea started from something. But if you don't know stuff, then you will not be able to create. So it's very important for concept artists to just look at stuff, like browse pictures, different environments, like pictures from Amazonian jungle, pictures from American plains, pictures from tundra, anything, any environment. The macro pictures, like those little small. Recently, I saw a really cool subreddit with minerals, and they put like those macro pictures of minerals, and it looks so bizarre. Like they're like bismuth mineral, which goes like in the perfect cubes, and looks so awesome. Like just imagine like tiny people walk in this giant environment of like immense crystals that that I could make in the game.
That makes me think of
everything. Everything that you see sort of stays in your brain, and then you can make designs of it. So it's very important for artists to just know as much possible and to look at as many things as possible to create very interesting designs.
I will tell you, I am, as somebody who does quite a bit of not just playing games, but I'm helping someone develop a game as well. We're all indie developers here. Having the ability to just watch something like a movie or someone's Twitch stream or someone's YouTube, or watching something on the television like National Geographic or some random thing, reading stuff, it sparks creative things in your brain, at least for me. And
Yeah.
the best piece of advice I can give out on behalf of Patryk, because he mentioned it and I went, this is common sense. Just go out there, consume as much media as you can. And if you feel yourself hitting that artistic slump, regardless of whether you're a coder or not, honestly, just consume media. And then do what Neil Gaiman says.
Yes, Chris. Go, Chris, go.
Like I say, my concept artist, he appreciates every little bit of information that I give him, whether it's just a sentence that explains how shiny something is, or I give him a photo that's right. I want it to look a bit like this, but make it a bit more futuristic or whatever, and go into a bit more detail than that. But when there's also the other side of things where someone can be too vague and it can just send you into what do you mean it's too red? What does too red mean? Anything like there's so many issues. It's all communication things again, though, isn't it? It's always people not understanding each other or getting frustrated before they've actually got the point across, or the other way around, before they've actually heard what they're supposed to hear.
Yeah, I just thought of a very nice parallel. Like, working with concept artists is like growing crystals of salt, if any of you did. If you have this like huge solvent of salt, it will not grow by itself. You just need like a small hook, a small grain to plug it in there, and then it's gonna grow by itself. So the more hooks you give to concept artists, the more things and the bigger it can grow. Because if you will just tell me to work by myself, it's gonna take me so much time to just start, because I have no idea what you want. And even if you're gonna say everything is fine, most certainly not everything will be fine. And you will shut down a couple of the ideas, and that's gonna only infuriate me because I spend so much time trying to think about something. So just give something to the artist to start with.
There's also a way to give feedback as well. If you give feedback in a oh, that's a bit crap, or that's not very good, and not give them any kind of qualifying constructive criticism, then there's going to be more frustration there.
Yeah. That's not criticism, by the way. Like saying that's crap, it's not a criticism, it's an opinion. And not very good one. Like also programmers, like something that like giving proper critique and how to take and how to give critique. It's actually part of education for artists. Like they do it at university, they do it at artists. It's actually like in my high school, I took a course for like switch it more towards the art, and I had like one subject which was basically half art history and half giving critiques on people's work and taking it. And at start it was very hard because you had to go in front of all the class and present yourself. And for people it was also really hard because they didn't really want to offend, but teacher didn't pull punches, so it all came really nicely. And I think that more people should do that, because if you see that something wrong with something but you cannot quite picture it, it's so infuriating. But the moment when you can actually nail it down and express it, it's like so much better. And it helps everyone. It helps yourself, it helps artists. And by the way, like people that get offended, if you give them proper criticism, just kick them in the butt or something. They're horrible people. I
understand that. The thing is, it's a human skill learning to take criticism, let alone an artist's or a developer's skill. I work in the real world with many. I say real world because I don't do indie dev full time, unfortunately. But I work in the real world with many, many, many people, and a lot of them just can't take reviews, criticism, any kind of right. Have you seen this before? This technology, you can use this to do this. It's quite good. There's also this, and people are just like, oh, you say my code's crap. It's like, no, I'm not saying your code's crap. I'm just saying that you need a bit, a bit of a push in the right direction. And the same goes with art. You have to
Yeah.
You have to take
Speaking even of people giving criticism, I gotta say, like working, maybe I was very lucky and very fortunate, but throughout all those 3 years that I've been working with different people, I never had bad experience with someone. Like indie devs are just so nice and so
Thankful?
appreciative of what you do. Yeah, they're very thankful, and it's like and then I talk with people that are work more in the design of like logo design or advertisement, and they just take shit on daily basis.
Mm-hmm.
Like the clients are just writing them like, it's so bad.
It
So
is.
if
There's
you
no
hate
need
your
for
job
it.
as an artist, indie devs are gonna welcome you with open arms.
Unfortunately, they may not pay you much, but unfortunately,
Yeah, they might not pay you as much, but you will not feel humiliated on daily basis.
Personally,
good
I'd
thing.
rather have a satisfactory job and satisfactory workplace than loads of money. I'll be honest with you. We all need money. I'm not saying work for free or anything like that, But
Yeah.
it's
I agree. And here
one
is
of the
where
most important things.
And here is where I step in to say a couple of things of interest. You guys have made some incredibly good points. I want to point out that Dr. Marshmallows, who is one of our editors at MMOBuff.TV, in fact, if people cannot make it past the marsh for editing, they're not probably going to write for us, because Marsh does not hold back anything. And whenever I have a piece of mine reviewed by Marsh, I don't want him to hold back on anything. I can only learn if people point it out to me, but there is something to be said for being belittled versus being critiqued. And some people haven't learned the balance of how to actually give a critique, and all they know how to do is insult and belittle. And that's a skill in its own right as well. So it's not just taking it, but if someone comes at you in a rage about something that you have created, be it a piece of art, be it a piece of code, be it anything, if someone comes at you at a piece of rage, you need to sort of step back and go, are they really angry about that issue, or is something else what's bugging them? And sometimes it's actually something else entirely, but this is the only way they could find the easy way to express whatever it is that was troubling them. The other last piece of advice I'm going to give you is from a graphic designing friend of mine. She does logos, branding, things like that, and it is a cutthroat world. It is very painful world to be in, especially when you have people going, but you're a freelancer, so you're free, right? That's got to be one of the greatest things I've ever.
We didn't use that, so we weren't gonna pay you, right?
Oh my gosh!
I've heard all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
But she told me one day, because she is an artist, she said, I think outside the box. My job is to design outside the box. But if you, as a creator, of someone who wants this piece from me, who wants this art from me, who wants anything from me on a creative scale, does not give me a box in which to start, I can't go outside the box. You need to give me some constraints so that I can start to play. And if you don't give me those constraints, like Patryk was saying, I'm going to be putting so much time into trying to figure something out, it's not going to be helpful. So if you are looking to get a graphic artist involved, graphic designer, graphic 3D modeler, animator, anything involved in your team, I would highly recommend knowing what you're going to ask them for in the first place. Just don't go, I have this brilliant idea for a game, I need an artist. No. What do you need the artist for? What style are you looking for them to go for? Be a bit more aware of what you're developing.
I've got a question for Patryk, actually, from that. I sometimes worry, and this may just be my own neurosis, I sometimes worry that I either maybe come across a little bit patronizing, or I come across like I want them to do something very, very specific to an artist, whereas I always try to tell them to be creative and use their own influence. I don't want you to do what's in my head. I want you to use the constraints and then go from there. But I'm sometimes a little bit worried that maybe no one's ever said anything to me. Again, it's probably neurosis, but I'm worried that maybe they think that I'm being a bit too restrictive with things. Do you ever get that from clients? Do you feel like you need more control from some of your work?
Not really, because it always comes down to communication. Like when someone's getting really, like when someone tries to be really hand-on. Actually, I had exactly that problem a couple of months ago, like the guy, instead of sending me like full list of assets, he would send me like literally half an hour of work every email. And I told him like, dude, I cannot make like one piece of a map and then another. They will not fit together. I sort of have to start all of them together. And I explained my workflow, and he ignored me.
Right.
And he kept doing that. So I said, okay, I'm gonna bill you $5 every email you send to me, and then every email I send to you. And he stopped doing that. Because, like, thankfully, like, there is just so much work in the indie dev. Like, obviously, it's seasonal. Like, I will see sometimes, like, so much work for like, in one day for people looking for artists. And then sometimes there's just no one. But thankfully, I was in this position where I could just say, I am not comfortable with that work environment, and I would like to change it. And credit given, a lot of the times people will change it. Because they like, as you said, like, they want you, like, you want me as an artist to have fun and to have a nice work, like, have a nice experience working with you. So a lot of people don't mean that. So it's just a matter of communication error. And when people, like, just being open is very important. Like I said, it was a very big issue for me, and it will be like, I don't like working like that. And some people will not be as nice, and then you can stop pulling punches and say, I gonna straight up stop billing you for it. And if they don't, like, if they will keep do that, then hey, extra money. Like, then you can just say, I don't give a crap because I'm getting paid for it, like bonanzas. But yeah, to actually end the thing, apparently, like, so what happens actually, it was like another guy that was hired by the programmer to manage the project, and he actually got kicked really fast because he, as you would notice, not really good manager. But yeah, the programmer was actually the owner of the project, and he didn't want to deal with all of the management and like task tracking, so he hired a guy to do that for him, which, unfortunately didn't turn out all that well. But once both of us started working together without the third party, it was just great. So communication, important. Like, if you have an issue, say about it, be open about it. Don't try to be too diplomatic. Like, just like, like, don't try to make it look like you're very uncomfortable with the subject, because that's given and that's only waste of time. If I see someone write me a paragraph on a text, it's like, just please get to the point.
That was my point.
But also
As in, if I give them too much information, sometimes I feel a little bit like I'm pressuring to, or not pressuring. I'm
influencing.
I'm being too specific. I'm being too specific about what I want. Whereas I want them to be creative, and I want them to come up with the design and the feeling, even though sometimes I might say, right, I think we need something angular here, or we need something red.
Like, there are different people, and they have different approaches. Some people like to have like a lot of this box, as Josie said. Like, some people want to have like very small and very thick box, and that actually helps them. And some people prefer more on the hands-on approach. But like, they will always just tell you, or they should at least. So as long as someone says anything, I'd say that it's cool. And then also, like, it helps because a couple of times, like, a client would give me very specific directions, and he would ask for all concept art, and that would sparkle my imagination. I would do something completely different, and I would still include it, and I would say, okay, so here are those 3 concepts that you asked me for, but I made one bonus one because I had this really great idea. What do you think about it? And more often than not, people will choose that 4th one.
Yeah.
Chris is now sitting here going, I think I get it now. It's one of those, like, you have this almost eureka face on, like, you're just about to crest.
I'm just worried about, because, again, most of the stuff that we do is revenue share. The artist is different. The concept artist has said we do pay. But I always worry that, and I always try and make it clear that I want them to invest in it, and I want it to be their product. I'm the one who's created the idea. I'm the one who's programmed most of the game, and I'm basically the one that's doing everything else, and they're doing a very specific role. But I want them to invest in it, and I want them to love it, as much as I love it, and that's the key thing here. And it's not I want them to love it so they'll do it for free. It's nothing like that. It's I want them to love it so I get the best results out of them. I'll be honest with you. It's getting the best results and allowing them to have creativity at the same time. Yeah.
I don't want to start like a little like a psychologist thingy here, like or psychiatrist, but like I think that like the easiest way to get rid of your anxiety is just to ask them, hey, do I handhold you too much? Like, do you feel awkward working?
I do a little bit, but in fact, I do say that, and I am very open and very very verbal with people. But thank you. That face said it all. But people always say, yes, it's fine. I generally never get anyone saying you're a bit of a you're a bit of a dictator here or something. But yeah, anything. I never really get anyone saying that. But I think I just presume that everyone hates me, and I kind of. I bring it on myself, you know. But everyone says
group
that.
Group hug. It's group therapy for the poor developer. Don't worry, we love you too. It's okay.
Thank you. I wasn't looking for compliments. I was just saying I always worry that people are unhappy with the work I set them, I suppose. And it's like.
I think you need to keep something in mind, and this is something that Patryk has been mentioning a couple of times, but in different ways. Everybody is different. One artist really wants you to be as nitpicky as you could possibly be, give the most detail in the world. Another artist just wants you to go, I need something that would fit in space in the year 1412 AD. At which point in time you have a few bits of reference, but nothing much, and it's literally left up to the imagination. Each one is different. So as your team starts to develop, you're going to probably find that you have certain artists, certain modelers, certain animators who require a certain level of freedom, whereas others want that much tighter restraint. There's, I don't know, maybe Patryk, you can kind of shed some light on this. As an artist, do you feel the more in tune you get with your style, the more confident you get, the more freedom you actually want? Or is it the reverse?
I actually don't care really. Like
he's got a good point.
My approach was always is that I want to be as broad as possible, as general as possible, and as fitting to other people as possible. Like it actually reflects in the way I play video games. Like be it in League of Legends or in Dota or whatever, I will always be that guy that I will pick or even in WoW. Like in WoW, I was mostly healer because I wanted to be a healer. And my God, I want to finish that goddamn ride, so I will be this goddamn healer. So yeah, I will do whatever. Like actually, and it fits into my approach. Like I don't actually really enjoy drawing. I love having something finished. Like I love this like finished project or finished game. Like it looks so amazing. I did something great. But like the road to get and the start. Like starting the concept, starting the idea, starting something. That's great. Anything in between, I hate it. So,
That's a fair point.
That's interesting.
I personally,
I don't give a crap how it is.
I kind of throw myself into every different task that I get involved in, and I avoid art like the plague because I know I've tried it many times. And but I throw myself into the task, and I tend to enjoy it because I'm learning, and that's my mindset. Sorry, but I spoke to one of my 3D artists the other day, and I said, and he was getting really excited about doing a character, and he come across with loads of little ideas for the game, and I had to actually rein him in a little bit, and it's quite refreshing to get that because I didn't expect it from anybody. I expected people to come along and go, I just want something to do on an evening, and I just want to do some modelling and not be bothered about it. But the people I've got on my team are getting invested quite heavily now, and it feels like a team. It feels like we're aiming for a common goal, and it's nice to get that. But as you said, there's some people who are just doing it for the money. There's some people who are just doing it for the experience. In fact, there's a lot of people who just do it for the experience, and they don't really care about your project. They just want something to put on the CV, and they'll do one or two bits, and then they'll go, and you'll be like, right, okay, that wasn't what I wanted, but we are where we are,
Reality is what
you
it
will
is.
never find someone that does it only for the money in the game development, because if you would do it for the money, there are other things that pay a lot better. It's just that different people tend to enjoy different things. Like some people enjoy the process of making it. Some people enjoy the fact that they made something. And it goes everywhere. Like I knew that there are artists like that. Like I knew artists that they straight up hate like the traditional painters that actually work as painters. Like I know people that they hate painting, they hate the smell of paint, but my God, like they're the like they're the most excited, and like you have like sparkling in the eyes. You can see it when they have exhibition in the gallery, and they're just so proud of themselves, and they're so proud to show their work to other people and to share it, what they did, and to get opinions of other people. So it's amazing. And there are people that they just paint for the joy of painting, and they just shove it in the attic or whatever. Just they don't give a crap. So different. As I said, like everyone's different, and I think it's important to be open to get to know like what's excited to who. Like on Elysian Shadows, like we have one general huge design doc for like entire game and entire story and stuff like that, but we don't really have like the very details, and they really enjoy the details. Like when I started, I actually created, because it was back in the day when I was really into quantum mechanics, and I was actually watching lectures from MIT because they were very entertaining. So what I did, I actually I wanted to find a explanation why magic works and how it works. So I added entire boson, like entire subatomic particle to the model that will be force carrier for another field. And oh my god, I'm getting into quantum mechanics. Long story short, I sort of modified quantum mechanics to explain where magic works in the world of Elysian Shadows. And that's like 5 or 6 pages of almost academic paper with graphs. And it's awesome. And no one will probably ever see it, but my god, that was fun.
What I've tried to do is when I've got that inspiration and I've been in the same situation, I've gone, this is something I need to be able to explain it in the real world, and I've got like a 20-page background and history document for the world that we've created, and I've got multiple drawings. I use that to also inspire the artists. I give it to them and say, this is what I'm envisaging. Come up with something from this, come up with. I can't tell you what colours we need, and I can't tell you how things should look and the shapes. I can tell you where things are going to be, and I can give you certain constraints in terms of the height and things to do with the mechanics, but that's it. I can't give you a style or anything like that, so, fill your boots.
Another great phrase that you've now gotten here on the Datamine. Right, so this leads me to say, we have literally learned a lot. I've actually learned a lot from you, Patryk. What's interesting to me is a lot of the stuff you're mentioning is stuff that I kind of already knew, but wasn't in the forefront, because I'm actively involved in a game that's being developed for tabletop. I'm actively involved in, watching independent developers thrive, because I went out on a limb during one of the very first Monday shows that we did, which is our analytical show to a T, where we rip to shred game topics. And I said, the future of game development is in the independent developers' hands. And I still firmly believe that. But I have to give you one piece of advice, Chris. When you ask and you get the open communication going, if they say everything's fine, be willing to accept that as their answer, instead of constantly going, they're just saying it's fine because they feel they have to. That is a really hard thing to say, or a really hard thing to do, because you're just sitting there going, I know I'm doing something wrong. I just know it. I have totally screwed it up. It's all over. I'm going to make their lives a living hell. They're going to blow up. They're going to leave me. I'm never going to see them again. But if they say everything's
that's the
okay,
thing. It's going to love me. There are a lot of things externally that affect indie dev teams as well, especially on a revenue share, because it's not a job, is it? It's a hobby at the end of the day, and unfortunately, my distinction is quite. I've got a situation that's ballooned into this quite serious and quite elaborate and ambitious project, and it's come from. It's come from very, very humble beginnings, if you know what I mean. With me and a friend, we're going to do it, and now it's got to a point where, I've cut out loads of the features we were going to put in, but I've still got years of work here, and I've still got lack of talent in the art department. Personally, I can write. I've written the game. The game works. I can put blocks in the game and make a game that works functionally, but looking pretty is a totally different thing, and that's what brings people in. So it's needed.
Absolutely. And I think it's a shame that poor Danny is not here today. He is on vacation, because he doesn't do art at all. And his game Light, which is now available on Steam, which is awesome, is literally a pixel. And his company is called Just a Pixel. Him and Roberta work together, but just a pixel because it's so much easier to do art for just a pixel instead of trying to develop this entire world that becomes much more immersive, or maybe that's not the direction they wanted to take it, but you are literally a tiny little pixel moving around in a stealth-based game. And it
Josie,
just
are you
makes it easier.
familiar with Dwarf Fortress?
Yes.
So, have you read any of the fanfic or anything for the game?
No, you know, I haven't read
This
any of the
game generated-
fanfic.
Oh my god, like, those ASCII characters, they created more bloody and treacherous and awesome stories that, you know, I know Game of Thrones or whatever. So, you know, it's not
Well,
only...
look at Thomas Was Alone. What's that? It's blocks. And there's a great story behind it, you know?
Thomas Was Alone is a brilliant design. Like, there might not be in terms of, like, a execution of, like, intricate details, but like the design behind it, like people could learn so much from the game, like from the color palettes, the way the background works, the way the lighting works, the way even the water is rendered. Like this, everything is a marvel of design, of minimalistic design, something that you can see mimicked in Apple's UI interface, which they go with flat and minimal. And now we're sort of like slowly switching, especially with the new release for the Android. They sort of switched the UI again into like a little bit less minimal, but still kind of flat, so you can see the design drifting. But there is definitely more to art than just execution. And you can see a lot of the games, like World of Warcraft, still looks freaking pretty.
And they're changing.
So...
Well, see, that's the thing. They're changing the design of all of the models for the various characters. Although I have to ask, have you guys seen American McGee's Alice Madness Returns?
I've seen it.
Yeah.
I haven't played it.
Such a bizarre game.
It's a bizarre game, but it is so beautiful. I mean, you're talking about a simplicity of design and stuff. There is just this very linear railroad story. So if you're looking for innovation, you're not necessarily going to find it in this game at all. But if you are looking for something where when you turn your camera, the world is massive but not suffocating, it is so beautifully done. When you're in London, you feel you're in London. And I have to tell you, it's not just the art. It's the story writing that went with it. It's the sound effects that have been applied. I mean, we haven't even touched sound on the Datamine yet.
Okay. So big. We need to find someone that can, because sound is so important.
I have a email to the people who did Dex, the sound guy who wrote the music for it. He's actually done music for quite a few different things. But when I was at Res, and thank you for reminding me, I now need to kind of close the show, else we're going to just go on and on about this stuff. Let me do this. Okay. Here's the dealio. If you are interested in getting involved in our game jam is where we're going to split into two teams. We're going to have Danny go one way, we're going to have Chris go the other way, and they're going to have small teams put together of developers, coders, artists, sound people. Everyone get together to, in a 48-hour period, build a prototype of a game based on some topic that will be randomly handed to them in 48 hours, all for charity. Get in touch with me at voice@MMOBuff.TV. That's one. If you're an independent developer and you have a prototype that is working and you have an absolutely amazing concept in your opinion and you want to get it into the left field part of EGX, which is the Eurogamers exhibition that takes place in London, they are now accepting applicants. You have until August 10th to get your screenshots in, to get your rendered game in, or to get your prototypes in. Let them see it. They have some ideas, and they're even looking at opening up concepts that don't sit to one platform. So if you are interested in this, you're going to want to go check out their website. Now for you two are epic and awesome. Patryk, you are so having to come back because we have so many more topics about art that we haven't even touched yet. And poor Chris.
What?
Poor Chris, having to deal with us and your headphones and the whole moving everything around. Although I'm still loving the hair, I really am.
Thank you. Yeah, I said I did it especially for you today again. Too hot in this room, I tell you. I'm starting to collapse.
As long as you don't keep trimming your beard, we'll be fine. Every week, it seems to get shorter and shorter and shorter.
Well, this week, I trim it once every about 6 months, I think, and it goes from here to about here. So.
Oh, come on, Chris. We all know that it's your secret code reserve. So whenever you start to run out of your programming brilliance, you just sort of suck the beard in.
It is. I said to someone before it might have been you actually, Josie. Someone said that the longer the beard, the better developer. But I believe the shorter the beard, the better developer, because the more stress you've got, the more hair you lose. So the more the more you're into it, the more you're doing your development.
Great. Do you know what kind of implications that has for someone who has hair as long and as thick as mine?
Hey, I used to have hair that long. Strangely, it's grew down to here. My hair.
I kind of lost the little I had.
Oh, Chris's beard is like Simpson's hair. That comes from my husband. Thank you, Gwen dear.
Lose my power, yeah.
If you shave, you lose your leap powers. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yes, so what I'm going to say to both of you, thank you so much for coming on. Patryk, you have brought your passion. I warned people, I said, you are not going to believe how passionate this guy is about art and development and bringing art together. And holy cow, we haven't even touched even half the stuff that we want to talk with him about. That's
Here's
okay.
I tried my best to speak calmly and slowly, so that's actually me controlling myself. And a couple of days ago, I had a Skype call with Jesse before this whole thing. So you just might get the idea how it was back then.
I will tell you, we had, I think, what I would normally have with someone else, I would class it to be a 2-hour conversation. We had a 2-hour conversation in half an hour. Because he's like, I just got this idea. And I'm like, all right, let's do this. And we got this thing going. And I just literally fed off his passion. I was all of a sudden talking really fast myself. I'm like, oh my gosh. And I was like, wait a minute, slow down. But I have to thank you because it is so incredibly difficult to get ideas across in a clear manner that people can understand. And your concepts are dead on. Learn to take critiques. Learn to understand there's more to life than what's in front of you. Go out and explore. Find your inspiration there. It makes a difference what part of game development you're in. Just go. And then, of course, the biggest piece of advice we can give anybody in game development, just do it. Don't talk about it. Don't sit there and go, oh, I have this idea. Just grab a game engine, grab a piece of paper. Don't wait. Just do it.
And don't be afraid to talk to people.
Yeah.
Because
and
that's
one thing I liked about what you said really early on, Patryk, was that you share all of your assets with people. Now, while I see there's some benefit in keeping some assets to yourself, sharing information, devlogs, making yourself publicly available, making yourself approachable, talking to people on Twitter. As an indie dev, there's nothing better than that. Because you get inspiration, you get motivation from it, you get people who are more inclined to help you out when you get stuck, when you get stuck, and you can make contacts and network and things like that. It's just be open, yeah.
Here's a little secret if I can. A lot of people are afraid that someone gonna steal their idea. Here's the thing, no one cares. Yeah, exactly, everyone has their own ideas. I myself, I have 5 game ideas that I would love to make, but there's I'm working on Elysian Shadows, I gotta finish this. I don't give a crap about your idea. I mean, if you're gonna bring it up and you want to talk about it, great. I will try my best to help you out, but I will not make it because I like my own ideas a lot more, and that's everyone else's.
I had someone.
So don't be afraid talking about your ideas.
In fact, I've had 2 people who said to me specifically they don't want to use Unity because you can decompile the engine and people can read the source code. I know. It's a whole different topic, but that in itself is misinformed. Let's say, put it that way. It's thinking way too into it and being too paranoid. And bit egotistical as well, thinking that you've got an idea that other people want, you know?
Or that like you're that good that someone would try to steal from you. Like it's
people can have my code. I tell you, you should see the state of it. I try to keep it organised, but my lord, it just gets into a right mess because it's just the nature of game development. Oh, let's have this feature. Put this in. Oh,
that's how it works. Yeah.
Now see, all sage advice. Apparently, your artwork has completely stunned our host here at MMOBuff and our moderator, Dr. Marshmallows. He is in hearts with your artwork. Now, I have to ask, I'm really curious. I kind of gave you a task really early today. Can we get a sneak preview?
I just I hadn't time because I had to hold my microphone and there is only one character in there. I will totally finish it just after the show and I'm gonna tweet it to you, alright?
Okay,
and
yes.
Actually, that's good because that's only 3 of us, so we can already cut one character.
Poor Danny's gonna miss out on this one. And poor Chris is sitting there going, what?
So they have to take in vacation. That's our little secret. You're gonna see in around an hour after we're gonna close the show, I guess.
Oh, fantastic. So basically, pay attention to Twitter. Make certain you're following all of the peoples. Make certain you're following that way. Make certain you're following us on Twitter as well, because we will retweets and everything, because this will be interesting, especially because I'm really curious, because I have seen Patryk's artwork, and I have to admit, I am a bit of a fangirl. I love your artwork. So, yes. It's so different. Every time I turn around, it's something completely different. You definitely don't try to stick yourself in one genre. You really don't.
That's also last one tip for artists, just try different styles, because people will gonna approach you and they will say that they want game in specific art style. If you don't know the art style, you'll lose on a job.
I wouldn't know where to start with a style, honestly. That's the problem with me. It's I've put through a few really basic websites together, for example, but it's about my limit, you know.
Or people just, they just link a couple of screenshots from different games and just want something like that, and they send you a couple of screenshots. And that's actually really good because having ready references for what someone wants, that's really useful. But my God, we're actually we should supposed to close the show and we're getting back to discussion. I'm so sorry.
I know. Sorry, it's usually my fault as well.
See, this is the thing. At least now I know when I put the two of you on together, all I need to do is I need to have my iPad just have a little flashing thing that says stop.
I'm being very quiet here. I'm trying to keep a lot of questions back because he's got so much to say. You see, loads of.
Oh my gosh. Absolutely. And I'm sorry, Ludiara, we do not have Tumblr. That's not something we've got. Tumblr. We do have a Reddit, though.
Neither do I.
We do have a Reddit, which at some point in time I need to finish. We've also gotten a nuke, and we're all over the place. But, all the same, this leaves me to say to you guys, thank you so much. And we are now going to let you guys listen to some very beautiful music while we just take a deep breath. And then once we're off the air, I am going to abscond with these two and share infos. Because something tells me we've got to make certain everyone's got everyone's emails to ask all the right questions.
No, I've been following Patryk for ages, and he follows me already.
This was me trying to big it up.
Sorry.
Because what we're going to do at the end is we're going to sit back and we're going to go, wow, what was that? So here I'm trying to big up the fact that we're sharing info. But yes, no.
Sorry.
See, this is one of the things I'm finding. The more and more I get involved on either the journalistic side, the just simple gamer side, or the side of me that's helping my friend develop their game, I start to notice how tiny this world is. And all it takes to get into it is just do something. So
after 1.5 years of working, I basically stopped looking for a job because I had people coming back from people that I worked with before that say, hey, I heard that you're a good artist, can we work together? So it's a very small circle and everybody's referencing everybody. And it's also, contrary to all other, the lawyer's cliche or anything else, it's very open, just, getting in there, never been easier.
Yeah. Especially with group therapy here on the Datamine. Every Thursday at 1 p.m. UK time. I cheekily got it in. Right. And on that note, say your bye-byes in a variety of fun and exciting ways.
I hate when you ask me to be fun and exciting.
Because you're so not.
That's the best you're going to get from me, I'm afraid.
Right. You could totally...
Goodbye, everybody. Love you.
All right, can I? See everyone, and shameless plug, be sure to follow me on Twitter and also Elysian Shadows because the guys are awesome. Watch our adventures in game development because that's some
They're
prime
hysterical.
entertainment. Yeah, it's on.
Not safe for work.
Yeah, it's a bunch of rednecks from Alabama. I love them, but they swear a lot. So,
yeah, they do. But yes.
Yeah, just check out on YouTube Adventures in Game Development. We're there.
And if you actually like what Elysian Shadows is producing, they are hitting Kickstarter very soon.
Oh yeah.
So you can support them.
25 days. I think in 25 days. And I'm all jittery. It's scary.
What's really terrifying is how little time you will have during that. And it will pass so quick. It'll pass so quick.
This month will be terrifying. I don't know. I think I will slip into alcoholism to calm my nerves or something.
No, you don't.
MMOBuff does not condone alcoholism.
You beat me to it. That's brilliant. Okay,
there are other brands of alcohol. Sorry.
So apparently Dr. Marsh wants us to dance because, as he says, dance, monkey dance. So yay, there's your dance.
I can't because Josie's got me chained to my desk with a headphone thing, so I can't move now, I'm afraid, so you can't see me dance.
Raise the roof, raise the roof.
I mean, I'm dance like white person, so I know it doesn't work either.
And that is obviously my place to just simply say you guys are an absolute trip. Thank you so much. And for you all, hopefully see you next Thursday at 1 p.m. And that's just me, Pseudo, saying toodle pip here from MMOBuff Studios in Huddersfield in the UK, of all places. Go figure.